It seems like there's a lot happening between South Africa and Botswana. And it seems like there's agreement about a free trade. And a free trade has to be about open borders, a free market, a free transportation. Or maybe not free, but simple trade, whereby it's not as hard to travel from South Africa to Botswana. And it seems like it's not just South Africa and Botswana. And I'm going to play a clip for you, the new president of Botswana, Mr. DUMA BOKO, speaking about this. Maybe you're going to have a better understanding as to what I'm talking about. It seems like there's a lot we are not engaged in. There's a lot of conversations that we are not focusing on. There's a lot of people we are not listening to. And we are focused on the wrong conversations. There's a lot of things happening, Yazin. Listen to this. It's very interesting. Listen here.
Look, the first thing that we want to do, especially with the likes of President Ramaphosa, who's our closest neighbor and biggest trading partner, is multifold. But one, to strengthen and deepen the relations that subsist between the two countries and recommit to growing our economies together. The second is to lay a foundation for the creation of more durable and broader partnerships between us as members of the same customs union and other regional trading blocs. The third is also to open up trade infrastructure corridors that will enable the free flow of goods and services amongst our people, and in the process to grow our economies. So we were able to share ideas, to recommit ourselves to being closer, collaborating and sustaining the partnerships that we already have, and creating even bigger and stronger bonds of cooperation between us.
You touch on 2 points, sir. You make reference to a collaboration for the African continent under the Africa Free Trade Continental Area deal, and you also make a reference to the hosting of Africa's G20 in South Africa later on this year. Perhaps let's start off with the G20. It has been President Ramaphosa's very firm message here at WEF. The reason why perhaps he was also given a special address just to present the G20 agenda for the continent. What is Botswana hoping to gain from the hosting of the G20 on the African continent? So what are your asks?
Firstly, we congratulate South Africa. We stand in solidarity with South Africa on being the president of the G20 and hosting. We believe that it presents an opportunity not just for South Africa, but as the trumpet voice of the rest of the African continent, to tell the African narrative, to re-script it and present it in its boldest relief, which is that we want freer and more equitable trading practices in the face of a rapidly polarizing world that is experiencing trade protectionism. So we want to move away from this and create a more equitable trading environment where the smaller economies are also cushioned against the exogenous threats of economic imbalances across the world. And so we believe that this is an opportunity for Africa to be visible, to be fully represented through South Africa as its mouthpiece, and to begin a serious conversation about climate action, for instance, ensuring that technologies are shared, skills are transferred, that create an uptake of adaptable, disruptive technologies that deepen and augment the efforts of many of the African countries. So we hope that we will be able to have this visibility and to also shape the developing dialogue around issues of multilateralism, which we advocate, and a rules-based economic system for the world.
You make reference of the phrase a trumpet voice, and I think it's quite apt, just given the fact that the President of the United States, Donald Trump's voice has dominated the World Economic Forum meeting. So be it when talking about technology, be it when talking about climate, be it when talking about trade. With that said, a lot of your counterparts are saying that perhaps now is the time for the African continent to strengthen the trade that it does within the continent through the AfCFTA, just given the risks of changing partnerships and relations with certain countries in the West. What is your position on that? First of all, obviously reflecting the changing trade dynamics internationally, but more importantly on the AfCFTA and what Botswana is hoping to do in that space, sir?
Well, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement presents a unique opportunity to create a solid trading bloc of Africa. It opens up a whole market that will advance economies of many of the African states. It also generates an uptake and should generate an uptake of technology. There's a creation of a payment system that enables intra-Africa trade, and we hope that this will generate amazing growth for many of the African countries, including Botswana. That is one. The second is it also calls for a harmonization of trade practices and policies across the breadth and dimensions of the African continent. All the strictures and obstacles that presently exist in relation to the free movement of goods and services across the borders will have to be addressed, and all these strictures removed, and the legal environment and the trading environment harmonized. This is very important. It will also enable the African countries now coming together under this solidarity of the African Free Continental Trade Area Agreement to then be able to influence issues and events and policies and practices in the rapidly evolving global economy. Africa will now begin to be taken seriously, more seriously than it has ever been in the past. And with the era of uncertainty that we see now, we believe that it would be very important for Africa to assert itself. So we have this African Continental Free Trade Agreement will open very vast spaces for youth and women, because it has protocols that are targeting those specifically. It will also create many opportunities in fintech for many startups on the African continent. It will generate the uptake of technology, artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing in the area of health. For us, blockchain in Botswana has facilitated provenance tracking of our diamonds. And so we will deploy the technology for not just provenance tracking, but authentication, certification of diamonds and many other products. And so we believe that the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement would be very critical. But what will also be more fundamental for many of the countries that have what in international law is called a dualistic approach, where these treaties and agreements don't find automatic application and enforcement in domestic legislation. So after the signing and ratification, there now has to follow a process within country of domestication and incorporation into domestic legislation, which will for us result in a complete, comprehensive review of our legislative environment. Mm-hmm. And this will enable us to then harmonize with others in Africa. So this is great.